It looks like we may be picking up a brand new festival that's going to be kicking off the summer raiding season in Valhalla. And of course, that's going to include new armor sets, weapons, and it also looks like we may be raiding inside the realm of Muspelheim, which is very interesting. So I'm going to take you through everything notable that's been found in the game files recently. So more firm handshakes and a thank yous to Peda, who's been working hard behind the scenes to bring us this info. And of course, folks, this is all subject to change, so potential spoiler alert inbound, but it's also all good fun to talk about and speculate on. So let's dive straight in. So first up, there's Sigrblot Festival, and it's been named repeatedly in the game files recently, and it seems that this is going to be the next festival that we're going to be picking up in game. Now, Sigrblot is actually a part of the Ostara season, and historically marks the beginning of the summer and the start of the raiding campaign season for the Norse. It's one of three great festival blessings of the year, and it's mainly celebrated for victory or celebrating victorious battles to come. Now, this all actually seems to make sense and line up quite nicely, as Ped has actually found activities in this festival at Ravensthorpe that are orientated towards Eivor completing tasks that require her to provide the gods with offerings and in turn their blessing to go to war. Now, season wise, interestingly, the mastery challenges were actually categorized as being within the Ostara season, even though we've actually passed that season in our pagan will of the year, and technically we're in Lugh right now, and at the time of the mastery challenges we actually were as well. So I'm thinking UB are going to categorize the Sigrblot Festival in Ostara as well, and then we're just going to transition into that Norse season Mabon, which actually begins in September, and that is when the Siege of Paris DLC is also suspected to be released. Now, that's just a guesstimate there, but I think we're going to be skipping the Beltane and Lugh as seasons altogether, as there's absolutely no mention of them in the game data, and this is the only festival that has been referenced thus far, so I'm told. So what are we actually going to be picking up in this festival? Well, it does seem that we're going to be following a similar format to the Yule and Ostara festivals, but some of you are going to be thrilled to hear that Peda actually hasn't found any archery challenges here. Nothing at all referenced about them, which is great news. But what we do have is an entry within the festival which states war effort progress, as well as Eivor having a choice to make which god to sacrifice the bounty to. So it does seem that we're going to be completing activities in Ravensthorpe and working towards getting the clan ready for war. And when it's all ready, we'll be able to make a decision on which god to sacrifice this bounty to before we actually head out raiding. We've also got the Orlog and Flyting activities named as well, which are a bit of a mix-up from the drinking contest and archery, so I think it's just a standard switch up here, as well as a finding lost pigs for sacrifice activity around Ravensthorpe, so I'm thinking that's probably the bounty to the gods. But there's also two that stand out here for me in regard to activities, and one of them's called the Acts of Bravery, and the other one's called Gathering War Letters, which are distributed and hidden around Ravensthorpe. Now, going on what Ped has found, the war letters I think are going to be another Easter egg type of hunt, but instead of just picking up Easter eggs, we actually get a bit of a potential foreshadowing going on here before the Siege of Paris. And the main reason I say this is that one of the letters that Peda has found actually has an entry in it which states that I heard scouts were sent to Francia, so perhaps we'll get some cool info in these letters which are quite Paris-centric. And to be honest with you, I'm liking the sound of that. It's better than just picking up eggs. Now, when it comes to the Acts of Bravery, it looks like we will have another kind of fighting tournament here to complete, but instead of just a drunken brawl, it seems that we'll be using three different types of blunt weapons, and we'll get to choose which one of the three we want to use. And it does look like the whole premise behind this whole activity is more of a kind of practice scrap between soldiers before the war ahead, and it seems that the difficulty will actually change depending upon one of those three weapons that you choose. Now, there isn't a reference to any of those weapons, but I've got my fingers crossed here for a one-handed sword, and I think this is going to all be rocking up in this next title update, as Ubi said that swords will be arriving in a couple of weeks, and that was a few weeks ago, so maybe this could be a nice way to introduce it in terms of kind of practicing with a variety of different weapons against fellow raiders before we actually head out to raid or go to war. And it also seems that we're going to be tasked with another activity where we'll have to journey to Valka's hut, where everyone in Ravensthorpe has left their offerings to the gods, and then we're going to have to choose one of them that we prefer and then take it back to the big bonfire to choose our blessing. So all in all, a lot of similar stuff here, but also a few new things, and it looks like the whole overarching point of the Sigrblot Festival is preparing us for a long journey to go to war or raiding. Now, could this mean Paris or perhaps the new river raids? Well, I think it's probably both, to be honest. I think we'll probably be picking up a few new river raids before we actually get to Paris. By the way, folks, if you found any value from the video so far, a like on the video would be very kind and very helpful, so thanks very much. Now, with everything we know about this Sigrblot Festival, it does seem to nicely lead us into the river raids, and Peda has actually found a lot of great stuff in the game files, including new champions, rivers, armors, and weapons. But before we dive into that, let's actually take a look at the rivers named so far, and we've actually got the River Berbha, which is also called the River Barrow, one of the longest rivers in Ireland, and passes through Waterford, which is a city established by the Norse in 853, so I'd absolutely love to visit that in game. We also have the River Erriff, located in the west of Ireland, very famous for its waterfalls and fishing, and Peda's also found another named river in the raiding files, and this one is in Francia, so it's called the River Rhine, which is the second longest river in Western Europe actually, and interestingly, passes through Cologne, which if you actually remember is where all the assassins retreated to after evacuating Britain during the Roman occupation. So perhaps it's a bit of a stretch from me here, but could we actually pick up something cool there? Maybe a couple notes, maybe even a bureau. Probably a bit too optimistic, but what a great opportunity, and we're just going to have to wait and see. Now, if all of these rivers do come to the game, I think they're all going to be free for everyone and act as a kind of environmental showcase for players to experience as a kind of way to incentivize them to purchase the extra DLCs. Interestingly, in the E3 trailer, when they actually talked about river raids, they actually showed footage of river raids occurring in a trade post in Ireland, which I think was completely intentional. But saying that, let's say we've got our new river raids, are they actually going to change in any way? Well, from what Pedder has found, I think so, but only to a point. It does seem that we're going to be following the same template as the initial river raids, where we kind of pick up the clues at each river, which then leads us on to different pieces of armor that we can actually collect and completely fulfill an armor set, that being the St. George's armor. Well, it does seem that that kind of mechanic is in play here as well, but it's actually Lugh's armor set, which is what Pedder flagged actually a few months ago. Now, Lugh is actually a part of the pantheon of the Celtic gods, the Tuatha Dé Danann, and grandson of Balor, who we actually killed to obtain the Gelbog in the DLC. Now, to get this armor set, it looks like we'll be raiding the River Dee in England, then we'll be moving over to the River Barrow and to the River Erriff, so following that kind of clue breadcrumbs here, and subsequently picking up a champion boss fight, killing him for Lugh's famous spear, and importantly, obtaining another clue that actually takes us to the River Rhine in Francia to pursue a famous sword of Francia as a reward, but it doesn't actually say which sword. So a bit of a mouthful there, but after this is all said and done, here's the twister. Varn then tells us that due to our excessive raids, some champions of faith, so essentially holy mercenaries, have returned to high alert rivers to kind of protect monasteries and defend all the local people from our pillaging. This sounds very cool to me, but also I think what is even cooler is that these champions of faith seem to drop weapons for us, which I'm completely up for on the basis that it's not a reskin. But to be honest, I think this is Ubi's way of re-incentivizing us to kind of replay these raids, to push the rivers to high alert, and then subsequently we have to then go back, wait for that champion to spawn, so we can then pick up a random weapon and kind of rinse and repeat that. I think what would be even more impactful is actually if these weapons were actually Reddit drops, but reset every week. I think by and large, personally, the river raids are a little bit mundane, but if there was a nice elusive weapon up for grabs from the store, then I'd be more incentivized to go back and just do a few raids a week. I think that's probably unlikely, and I think it's probably likely that we will get some reskins, but I think these champions are positive only on the basis that they're kind of on the same level as Dringa difficulty. So I'm popping the weapons on the screen here for reference, but Pedder's not actually sure if all of these are going to be available for the champions after nuking them, but they were found in the same location as the river raids in the game files. So a couple notable ones here: Rollo's Lost Axe for one, and Sir Gareth's Holy Sword, which was actually a sword given to Sir Gareth, who was part of the Knights of the Round Table, by Sir Lancelot, who then went on to defeat the infamous Black Knight, which is pretty sweet. Now, it doesn't stop there, because Pedder's also found a note in the game files about a river raid on Svartalfheim, which is actually home of the Dark Elves and Dwarfs. However, and quite interestingly, this raid seems to begin from Muspelheim. So it does look like that we're going to be starting a raid from Muspelheim and then venturing into another realm. And it doesn't actually stop there, because he's also found more evidence of us popping back and forth between realms, because it says that we're able to travel to Niflheim, which is also another one of the 9 realms called the World of the Dead, where we actually need to burn supply ships and destroy a chain. So perhaps that chain is similar to what we see across the rivers of Barricade. Lots of stuff to think about here. Very cool indeed. Let me know what you think down below of all that. Now, traveling through the World of the Dead and raiding it does sound pretty cool, but let me tell you what's even cooler, and that's our Discord community, which has a lot of awesome people who love talking about AC and lots of other stuff not AC related. So if you'd like to hang out, then drop by. It would be great to see you in the lobby. And also big congrats to AC Central, who won our photo mode competition last week. He also runs a awesome French AC channel, so do check it out. And once again, a big thanks to Pedder. If it wasn't for him, this video wouldn't be possible. Another amazing shift. We love hearing everything that you have to find about the game, mate, so thanks very much. And I think this one will do it for me, so looking forward to catching you in the next one. And as usual, coffee's on me.